Hello, my dear friends. Welcome back to another evening of shared stories and quiet speculation. Tonight we're diving into the world of The Boys and everything we think might happen in the fifth and final season. Now, if you're here, I'm guessing you already know this show pretty well. You've watched Homelander smile at a camera while plotting something horrible behind those blue eyes. You've watched Butcher make every wrong decision for what he believes are the right reasons. And you've probably been thinking about how it all ends ever since that season 4 finale left us staring at the screen, wondering what on earth just happened. So tonight, we're going to talk about all of it. The theories, the confirmed details, the fan speculation, and the little breadcrumbs that the creators have been leaving for us over the past 5 years. I'll be covering Homelander's endgame and his terrifying quest for immortality, Butcher's transformation from anti-hero into something much darker, Soldier Boy's return, and what it means for the father-son dynamic nobody asked for, the soup-killing virus, and whether it's salvation or extinction, which characters might not make it out alive, Ryan's impossible choice, the relationships that give this show its heart, new characters joining the final season, and of course, how the whole thing might actually end. There's a lot to get through tonight, but there's no rush. That's sort of the point. So get comfortable, settle in, maybe dim the lights a bit, and let's spend some time together talking about one of the most ambitious shows to ever air on television. But before we get into the theories, let's just set the stage with what we actually know for certain about Season 5, because there's quite a bit of confirmed information at this point, and it helps to separate fact from speculation before we start guessing. Eric Kripke, the showrunner who created The Boys for television, announced on June 11th, 2024, that Season 5 would be the final season of the series. He posted it on social media during the premiere week for Season 4, writing that he was thrilled to bring the story to what he called a gory, epic, moist climax. That's very much his sense of humour, but he meant it. He said in multiple interviews that he always planned for 5 seasons. This was never going to be one of those shows that runs until the quality drops off. He had an end point in mind from the very beginning. Filming for the final season started in November 2024 and wrapped in early July 2025. Kripke posted a farewell message from set when they finished, and by all accounts, it was an emotional shoot for everyone involved. The season premiered its first teaser trailer at CCXP Brazil on December 6, 2025, and a final trailer dropped in March 2026. Both trailers painted a pretty grim picture of what's coming. We're talking full-on fascist America, with Homelander running the show, the boys scattered and captured, and Butcher using his new tentacle powers to tear through anyone standing in his way. The season premieres on April 8, 2026, with a 2-episode debut on Prime Video. After that, new episodes release weekly every Wednesday, with the series finale landing on May 20th, 2026. 8 episodes total, that's it. 8 episodes to wrap up 5 years of storytelling. And the confirmed episode titles, which were released out of order, are fascinating. We've got Teenage Kicks, Every One of You Sons of Bitches, Though the Heavens Fall, One Shot's King of Hell, The Frenchman, the Female, and The Man Called Mother's Milk, and Blood and Bone. If you're familiar with the Garth Ennis and Derek Robertson comic books that the show's based on, a couple of those titles will ring some pretty loud bells, but we'll get to that later. For now, let's talk about the man who started all of this. The most dangerous, most unstable, most emotionally shattered soupe in the entire world. Let's talk about Homelander. Homelander is one of those villains who makes you uncomfortable in a way that goes beyond the usual TV bad guy. He's not calculating like a mob boss. He's not mysterious like a serial killer in a thriller. He's something worse. He's a deeply wounded child trapped in the body of a god. And that combination of vulnerability and limitless power is what makes him so genuinely frightening. Anthony Starr has done something remarkable with this character over 4 seasons. He's taken what could have been a one-note Superman parody and turned him into someone who makes you feel genuine unease every time he's on screen. There's this constant tension between the public-facing Homelander, who smiles and waves and says all the right things, and the private Homelander, who stares into mirrors, talks to himself, drinks breast milk alone in dark rooms, and murders anyone who threatens his image. And that's really what drives Homelander. It's not power, although he certainly enjoys that. It's not control, although he craves it. It's love, or rather, the complete absence of love in his entire life. He was raised in a laboratory. No parents, no warmth, no touch except from scientists running experiments on him. Every monstrous thing Homelander does traces back to that wounded child inside him who just wants someone, anyone, to love him unconditionally. And the tragedy is that every time someone does try to love him, his own paranoia and cruelty pushes them away or gets them killed. In Season 1, he was still pretending, playing the hero for the cameras, hiding his worst impulses behind that plastic smile. By Season 2, he was starting to crack, having a relationship with Stormfront that brought out his worst qualities and his most extreme political tendencies. Season 3 introduced his biological father, Soldier Boy, and Homelander's desperate attempt to connect with him was painful to watch. A grown man with the emotional maturity of a toddler, trying to impress a father who found him pathetic. And by Season 4, the mask was fully off. Homelander staged what amounted to a coup. He took control of Vought, installed a puppet president, murdered and intimidated anyone who stood in his way, and by the finale, he was essentially running the United States. The official synopsis for Season 5 confirms where things stand. It states that Homelander controls America through fascist terror, imprisoning dissenters in freedom camps. That's the world our characters are living in now. Not a world where Homelander might take over, a world where he already has. But here's where it gets really interesting, and where the theories start to get properly wild. The final trailer for Season 5, which dropped in March 2026, revealed something that changes the stakes entirely. Homelander is seeking something called V1. This is Vaught's original iteration of Compound 5, the chemical that created the very first supes. And according to the trailer, Homelander believes that V1 will make him immortal. Think about that for a second. He already can't be stopped by conventional weapons. He's faster than anything on Earth. He can fly, he has laser eyes that cut through steel, and his durability is essentially limitless, based on what we've seen. The only people who've ever genuinely hurt him are Soldier Boy and, in brief flashes, Butcher on temp fee. And now he wants to make sure that even those threats can never touch him again. The quest for immortality is such a perfect escalation for his character. Because it's not really about living forever. It's about never being vulnerable again. About making sure that the scared little boy in the lab can never be hurt by anyone, ever. It's the ultimate expression of his trauma turned into a weapon. If he can become truly immortal, truly unkillable, then nobody can ever leave him, betray him, or make him feel small again. But the trailer also showed us something that comic book readers immediately recognized, and it's probably the single biggest clue about how the season ends. The trailer ends with Homelander sitting behind a desk in the Oval Office. Now that might just seem like a natural progression of his political takeover. He runs the country, so he sits in the big chair. But for anyone who's read the original Boys comics by Garth Ennis and Derek Robertson, that image carries a very specific weight. Because in the comics, the Oval Office is where Homelander dies. In the source material, Homelander eventually snaps completely and attacks the White House. Butcher confronts him there, but Butcher alone can't beat him. It's actually Black Noir who, in the comics, is a secret clone of Homelander created by Vought as a failsafe who delivers the killing blow. Now the show has already changed the Black Noir situation significantly. The original Black Noir was killed by Homelander himself in Season 3, and his replacement is just an actor in a costume with no real powers to speak of. So if the show is keeping the Oval Office as the location for Homelander's death, someone else has to be the one to do it. And that opens up a whole world of theories. The most popular one, which we'll talk about more later when we discuss Ryan, is that Homelander's own son will be the one to kill him. A father murdered by his child. That's dark even by this show's standards, but it fits thematically in ways that are almost too perfect. There's another theory that Soldier Boy will be the one to do it. He's one of the few characters physically capable of hurting Homelander. His chest blast temporarily neutralized Homelander's powers back in Season 3. And there's a certain poetic justice to a father destroying the son he never wanted and never loved. That toxic, broken father-son dynamic playing out to its most violent conclusion. And then there's the theory that Billy Butcher will be the one to end Homelander, which is what most casual viewers probably expect. Butcher has spent the entire series trying to kill this man. It's his sole purpose, his reason for getting up in the morning. But Butcher killing Homelander might actually happen earlier than people think, which would set up an entirely different kind of finale. We'll get into that when we talk about Butcher's arc. One theory that I find genuinely fascinating is the idea that Homelander actually achieves immortality but loses everything in the process. Imagine he gets the V1, he becomes truly unkillable, but in doing so, Ryan turns against him permanently. His allies abandon him, Vought crumbles, and he's left sitting alone in the Oval Office, immortal and indestructible, but utterly and completely alone. That scared little boy from the lab with nobody to love him, now trapped in that loneliness forever. In some ways, that's a fate worse than death, and for a character whose entire arc has been about the desperate, destructive pursuit of love, it would be an almost unbearably sad ending. Anthony Starr has mentioned in interviews that he approached Homelander's psychology as someone raised without any form of affection who was then given unlimited power. Every monstrous act traces back to that absence, and I think the writers understand that the most devastating thing they could do to Homelander isn't just killing him, it's proving him right, proving that he really is unlovable, that even his own son can't bring himself to care about him. That said, Kripke has not been subtle about the violence coming in Season 5. He described it at a Deadline panel in May 2025 by saying there will probably be lots of deaths and that there's no guarantee of who's going to survive. He's called the season the show's version of the apocalypse. He's compared the ending to something gory and epic and final. And Carl Urban, who plays Butcher, has reiterated that nobody is safe. Nobody. So whether Homelander dies at the hands of Butcher, Soldier Boy, Ryan, or someone we're not even considering yet, the smart money says he doesn't survive the series. He can't. The entire show has been building toward his downfall for 5 years, and letting him live would feel like a betrayal of everything the story has been about. But here's the thing that makes Season 5 so much more complicated than a simple hero kills villain narrative, because Homelander might not actually be the final threat. There's someone else who's arguably become even more dangerous, even more unpredictable, and even more willing to burn the world down to get what he wants. And that's the man who is supposed to be the hero of this story. The man who assembled the boys and gave them a purpose. The man who's now a supe himself, with tentacles growing out of his chest and a stolen virus that could kill every superpowered being on the planet. I've been thinking a lot about why Butcher's transformation hits so much harder than the typical villain origin story. And I think it comes down to the fact that we watched it happen in real time, across 4 seasons. It wasn't a sudden twist or a dramatic reveal. It was gradual, incremental, like watching someone you love slowly become someone you don't recognize. Each decision seemed justified in the moment. Each compromise seemed necessary. And then one day you look at the totality of what they've become and you realize the person you knew is gone. That's what makes it devastating. Not the superpowers or the tentacles or the stolen bioweapon, but the simple human truth that good people can become bad people one small choice at a time. That the road to monstrosity is paved with understandable decisions. That rage, even righteous rage, will eat you alive if you let it. Let's talk about Billy Butcher. Billy Butcher might be the most tragic character on television right now. And I don't say that lightly, because when you trace his arc from the very first episode to where we left him at the end of season 4, you're watching a man who started with one clear, understandable, even sympathetic motivation: to avenge his wife and protect the people he loves from superpowered monsters. And over the course of 4 seasons, that motivation has twisted and calcified into something genuinely terrifying. Karl Urban has been absolutely brilliant in this role from the start, but what he's done with Butcher in recent seasons is on another level entirely. He's playing a man who is simultaneously dying, transforming, losing his mind, and becoming the very thing he set out to destroy. And he's making you feel every single stage of that collapse. Let's go back to the beginning for a second. In season 1, Butcher was rough around the edges, but fundamentally decent in his own brutal way. He assembled the boys because Homelander raped his wife, Becca, and he believed Becca was dead. His motivation was grief and rage, but also a genuine desire to protect people from supes who abused their power. He was the guy who told Huey the truth about the world, who gave him a purpose, who became something like a mentor or a father figure. Flawed, yes. Violent, absolutely. But you understood why he did what he did. Season 2 complicated things because Butcher now knew that Becca was actually alive, having discovered it in the season 1 finale, and that she had been raising Homelander's son, Ryan, in a hidden Vought compound. Suddenly his mission wasn't just about revenge, it was about getting his wife back. And when Becca died at the end of season 2, killed accidentally by Ryan's uncontrolled heat vision, Butcher was left with a promise. Becca's dying wish was for him to protect Ryan, to keep her son safe. That promise has haunted every decision Butcher has made since. In season 3, he started taking Temp 5, a temporary version of Compound 5 that gave him powers for 24 hours at a time, but was slowly killing him with each dose. He gained heat vision and super strength, enough to go toe-to-toe with Homelander for the first time. But the cost was catastrophic. Each dose was creating a tumour in his brain. By the end of season 3, he was told he had months to live. And then season 4 happened, and everything fell apart. Butcher, facing his own death, made a desperate choice. He injected himself with full Compound 5, not the temporary version, hoping it would cure his cancer. It didn't. Instead, the Compound V bonded with his brain tumour, effectively making the tumour itself sentient. And this is where the show did something really clever and really unsettling. The sentient tumour started manifesting as 2 competing hallucinations in Butcher's mind. One was his dead wife Becca, representing his conscience, his goodness, the part of him that still wanted to do right by her memory and protect Ryan with love and patience. The other was Joe Kessler, played by Jeffrey Dean Morgan, representing his darkest impulses. Kessler, or the version of Kessler that lived in Butcher's fractured mind, kept pushing him toward violence, toward genocide, toward the idea that the only solution to the soup problem was to kill every single one of them. For most of season 4, Butcher was torn between these 2 sides of himself. He couldn't control his new powers because his mind was literally at war with itself. The tentacles, these venom-like appendages that could emerge from his body, would lash out unpredictably. He was deteriorating physically, mentally, and morally all at the same time. And then came the moment that broke him. In the season 4 finale, Ryan accidentally killed Grace Mallory. Grace, who had been one of the boys' most important allies, who had been watching over Ryan, who had been trying to show the boy the truth about his father. Ryan's powers flared, and Grace was gone. And the worst part was that Ryan didn't seem particularly upset about it. That was the moment Butcher stopped listening to Becca's voice. That was the moment he chose Kessler's side. In that instant, whatever was left of the man who promised his dying wife he'd protect her son with kindness and patience, that man died. What replaced him was something colder, more focused, and infinitely more dangerous. With his dark side fully embraced, Butcher gained complete control of his tentacle powers for the first time. And the first thing he did was kill Victoria Newman. Now, Newman had been a target for the boys for a long time. She was a secret super working as a politician, using her head-exploding powers to eliminate enemies while climbing the political ladder. The boys had been trying to take her out for months using the soup-killing virus, but every attempt had failed. And then Butcher just walked up and tore her apart with his tentacles, just like that. The threat they'd been planning around for an entire season, dealt with in seconds. But Butcher didn't stop there. He stole the last remaining sample of the soup-killing virus and fled into the night. The final shot of him in Season 4 was Butcher staring at his reflection, seeing Kessler staring back, while Nirvana's heart-shaped box played on the soundtrack. It was one of the most chilling endings the show has ever done. So where does that leave us going into Season 5? Well, Butcher is now essentially a rogue agent with soup powers and a bioweapon capable of killing every superpowered being on the planet. The final trailer for Season 5 made his intentions pretty explicit. There's a moment where Butcher declares that he wants to kill every soup on the planet. Not just Homelander, not just the bad ones, all of them. Every man, woman and child with Compound 5 in their bloodstream. And that's what makes this so complicated. Because a global release of the virus wouldn't just kill Homelander and the Deep and the other villains. It would also kill Starlight. It would kill Kimiko. It would kill A-Train, who's been on a genuine redemption arc. It would kill Ryan, Becca's son, the boy Butcher promised to protect. It might even kill Butcher himself, since he now has Compound 5 in his system. This brings us to what might be the most controversial theory about Season 5. And it's the one that has comic book readers nodding their heads, while show-only viewers refuse to believe it. The theory is that Billy Butcher becomes the true final villain of the series. In Garth Ennis's original comics, this is exactly what happens. Butcher's hatred of soups eventually consumes him so completely that he decides every person with powers needs to die, regardless of whether they're good or evil. He uses a weaponized version of Compound V to start his genocide, and when the boys try to stop him, he turns on them. He kills Mother's Milk, he kills Frenchie, he kills Kimiko. His final confrontation isn't with Homelander at all. It's with Huey Campbell, the young man he recruited in the very first issue, the closest thing he ever had to a son. In the comics, Huey kills Butcher. He has to. It's the only way to stop the genocide, and even though Huey knows it's necessary, it breaks him. He walks away from the fight and spends weeks in a haze of grief and guilt, unable to reconcile the man he loved with the man he had to kill. It's one of the most emotionally raw sequences in the entire comic series, and if Kripke adapts even a fraction of that emotional weight for the show, it's going to be unforgettable. What makes the comic ending work is that Butcher, in his final moments, isn't angry. He's relieved. He wanted Huey to stop him. He set up the confrontation knowing that Huey was the only person strong enough, not physically, but morally, to make the right choice. It was Butcher's last gift to the boy he raised. A final lesson in doing the hard thing because it's the right thing, even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts. Now the show has obviously taken major liberties with the source material. TV Butcher is significantly more sympathetic than comic Butcher. Carl Urban has imbued the character with a warmth and a dark humour that makes audiences root for him even when he's doing terrible things. But Season 4 has been very deliberately moving him closer to his comic book counterpart. The sentient tumour, the Kessler hallucination, the betrayal of the boys, the theft of the virus, the declaration that he wants to kill all soups. The pieces are all in place. The most popular version of this theory suggests that Season 5 will have a two-phase structure. The first phase, covering roughly the first 5 or 6 episodes, will be about defeating Homelander. The boys will regroup, rescue their captured members, recruit allies like Soldier Boy and the Gen V kids, and ultimately find a way to take Homelander down. Maybe Butcher kills him, maybe Ryan does, maybe it's a team effort, but Homelander falls. And then, just when you think the show is heading for a victory lap and a happy ending, the second phase begins. Butcher, with Homelander gone but the virus still in his possession, decides that removing one supie isn't enough. The system that creates supies is still intact. Vought still exists. Compound V is still out there. More Homelanders will come. The only way to truly end the threat is to end all supes everywhere. And suddenly the boys aren't fighting against the villain anymore. They're fighting against their own leader. The man who brought them together is now the one they have to stop. If this theory is right, the final episode or two of The Boys won't be a superhero battle at all. It'll be a deeply personal confrontation between Butcher and Huey. Two men who love each other, who saved each other's lives dozens of times, who became father and son in every way that matters, standing on opposite sides of an impossible line. Carl Urban hinted at something like this during a panel appearance at Tokyo Comic Con in 2025. He said that the first order of business in Season 5 is getting the gang back together, and then they spend the whole season trying to stop Homelander. But he also said nobody is safe, that nobody has plot armor, and that audiences are in for a crazy, wild, fun ride. The way he emphasized nobody is safe felt like it extended beyond just the threat from Homelander. There's also a less extreme version of this theory where Butcher doesn't go full villain but still goes too far. Maybe he tries to release the virus and someone stops him at the last second. Maybe he sacrifices himself to use the virus specifically on Homelander rather than on all supes. Maybe his death is the price of finally killing the man who destroyed his life. Honestly, I think Butcher has to die in Season 5. His tumor is killing him. His body is falling apart even as his powers grow stronger. The compound V might have temporarily halted his decline, but the show has been building toward his death for 2 full seasons now. The question isn't really whether he dies, it's whether he dies as a hero making one final sacrifice, or as a villain being stopped by the people who used to love him. And there's something really beautiful and really devastating about the possibility that Butcher's true enemy was never Homelander at all. It was himself, his own rage, his own trauma, his inability to let go of his hatred even when it was destroying everything around him. Homelander is a monster, but at least he was created by Vought. Butcher chose to become what he is, and that might be the saddest thing about the entire show. One detail that I think a lot of people overlook is the significance of the Becca hallucination disappearing. Throughout Season 4, Becca's ghost was Butcher's moral compass. She was the voice telling him to be better, to honor his promise, to choose love over violence. And when Butcher embraced his dark side, Becca's voice went silent. He literally killed his own conscience. For Butcher to be redeemed in Season 5, Becca's voice would need to come back somehow. Maybe at the very end, in his final moments, he hears her again. Maybe that's what stops him from releasing the virus. Maybe he remembers the promise he made, and in the last seconds of his life, he makes the right choice. That would be the kind of ending that hurts in all the right ways. Carl Urban has been pretty emotional in interviews about saying goodbye to the character. He's called it one of the hardest things he's ever done professionally. He's talked about how the final scenes were properly emotional for everyone involved. And without spoiling anything specific, his tone suggests that Butcher's ending is not a happy one, but it is a meaningful one. Whatever happens, Billy Butcher is going to leave an enormous mark on television history. He's one of the great anti-heroes, right up there with Walter White and Tony Soprano and Jax Teller. A man who started with good intentions and was slowly, inexorably destroyed by his own worst instincts. And if the show gets his ending right, he'll be remembered as one of the best characters to ever appear on a screen. But Butcher isn't the only ghost from the past threatening to complicate things in Season 5. Because there's someone currently lying in a cryogenic chamber who has a very personal score to settle. And when he wakes up, things are going to get very complicated for everybody, especially his son. Let's talk about Soldier Boy. Soldier Boy is one of the most fascinating characters The Boys has ever introduced, and his return in Season 5 is probably going to be one of the most important storylines of the final season. To understand why, we need to talk about who he is, what he represents, and why his relationship with Homelander is the key to so many of the theories circulating about how this show ends. Jensen Ackles joined the boys in Season 3 as Soldier Boy, and he brought something really special to the role. Soldier Boy is essentially America's original super, the first superhero Vought ever created, dating back to the 1940s. He was their poster boy, their Captain America equivalent, fighting in World War II and becoming a national icon. But behind the patriotic image, Soldier Boy was always a deeply flawed person. He was vain, cruel, racist, misogynistic, and emotionally stunted. He was the embodiment of a certain kind of toxic American masculinity, wrapped in a stars and stripes costume. In Season 3, we learned that Soldier Boy had been betrayed by his own team, a group called Payback, who sold him out to the Russians. The Soviets kept him in a facility for decades, experimenting on him and weaponizing his abilities. When the boys eventually freed him, Soldier Boy was a walking weapon of mass destruction. His chest could emit a blast powerful enough to strip a supe of their powers entirely. He was essentially a supe-killing bomb in human form. But the real revelation of Season 3 was that Soldier Boy is Homelander's biological father. Vought used Soldier Boy's genetic material to create Homelander in a lab. So when Soldier Boy and Homelander finally met face to face, it wasn't just two powerful beings sizing each other up. It was a father meeting the son he never knew about, and a son desperate for the parental love he'd been denied his entire life. And it went about as badly as you'd expect. Homelander tried to connect with Soldier Boy, tried to be the son his father might want, and Soldier Boy looked at him with disgust. He called Homelander a disappointment. He said he was weak, and you could see something shatter behind Homelander's eyes in that moment. The one person in the world who was supposed to love him unconditionally, and that person found him pathetic. At the end of Season 3, Soldier Boy was subdued and put back in cryo, this time by the government. He was too dangerous to kill and too unpredictable to set free, so they froze him again, like a problem being shelved instead of solved. Now for Season 5, Jensen Ackles has been confirmed as a series regular, not a guest star, but a full regular presence throughout the final season. Eric Kripke said at San Diego Comic-Con in 2024 that Soldier Boy is going to be in Season 5 quite a lot, and that there's a lot of good father-son emotion between him and Homelander that they never really got a chance to play. That language is really interesting because it suggests the show isn't just going to use Soldier Boy as a weapon. It's going to dig into the emotional wreckage between father and son. The final trailer confirmed exactly how Soldier Boy returns. Homelander himself wakes his father from cryogenic stasis. And based on the trailer footage, it appears that Homelander needs Soldier Boy's help in finding V1, the original compound V formula that Homelander believes will make him immortal. Since Soldier Boy is the oldest surviving supe and was around when Vought was still in its early days, he might know where V1 is stored or how to access it. But here's the thing about two narcissists working together. It never lasts. Soldier Boy and Homelander both have massive egos, both crave power and validation, and both are fundamentally incapable of genuine emotional connection. Their alliance is built on mutual need, not mutual trust, and the second either one of them feels threatened or disrespected by the other, it's going to explode. The most popular theory about Soldier Boy's role in Season 5 is that he eventually turns on Homelander. Not because he has a change of heart or becomes a hero. Soldier Boy is never going to be a hero, but because his ego won't let him play second fiddle to anyone, even his own son. Soldier Boy sees himself as the original, the real deal, the greatest supe who ever lived. Homelander is just a lab experiment, a copy of a copy. And if Homelander starts treating his father like a servant or a tool, Soldier Boy is going to make him pay for it. There's another theory that takes this even further, suggesting that Soldier Boy is the one who ultimately kills Homelander. In the comics, it's Black Noir, a clone of Homelander, who kills him. The show doesn't have a clone, but it does have a father, And if you think about the comic's original twist, the idea that the thing that destroys Homelander is essentially a version of himself, a father killing the son he helped create, is pretty close to that same thematic territory. It's a mirror killing a mirror. And Soldier Boy's chest blast, which we know can neutralize suit powers, could be the one weapon capable of making Homelander vulnerable enough to actually die. I have to mention the supernatural reunion aspect of all this, because it's genuinely delightful. Eric Kripke created both Supernatural and The Boys. Jensen Ackles, who plays Soldier Boy, played Dean Winchester on Supernatural for 15 seasons. And in February 2025, it was confirmed that Jared Padalecki, who played Sam Winchester, and Misha Collins, who played the Angel Castiel, are both appearing in Season 5 as guest stars. Kripke called it completing his Supernatural Pokemon collection, which is a very Eric Kripke thing to say. We don't know who Padalecki and Collins are playing yet, but the trailer showed them in scenes with Ackles, which sent the Supernatural fandom into absolute orbit. The odds of these three being in scenes together without some kind of meta-commentary or nod to Supernatural seem pretty low, knowing Kripke's sense of humour. Whether they're playing allies, enemies, or something completely unexpected, their presence adds another layer of excitement to an already stacked final season. Getting back to the bigger picture, Soldier Boy's return connects to one of the most important story elements going into Season 5, and that's the question of what weapons are available to fight Homelander. Because right now, the characters have three potential options: Soldier Boy's power-neutralizing blast, Ryan, who may be the only person strong enough to match Homelander physically, and the soup-killing virus, which Butcher currently possesses. Each of these options comes with massive risks, and that tension between needing these weapons and fearing their consequences is going to drive a lot of the drama in the final season. Which brings us perfectly to the soup virus itself, because honestly, this might be the single most important plot device in the entire final season. The virus is the thing that connects the boys, Gen V, Butcher's villainous turn, and the potential fate of every soup on the planet. And its history is more complicated than a lot of people realise, especially if you haven't watched Gen V. The soup-killing virus originated at Godolphin University, which is the Vought-run college for young soups featured in Gen V. It was created by a scientist named Dr. Edison Cardosa, working under the orders of Dean Indira Shetty, the head of the university. Shetty had a deeply personal vendetta against supes because her husband and child were killed in the airplane crash that Homelander caused back in Season 1 of The Boys. So she secretly funded the creation of a biological weapon that could neutralize or kill superpowered people. The virus works by binding to the compound V in a soup's bloodstream. Since normal humans don't have compound V in their system, the virus is harmless to them. In small doses, it acts like a flu, temporarily suppressing a soup's abilities. But in larger, concentrated doses, it causes horrific symptoms: blistering, hemorrhaging, organ failure, and death. Cardosa tested it on students at Godolphin in a secret underground facility called the Woods, and the results were genuinely awful to witness. Here's where it gets complicated. Cardosa eventually became horrified by what he'd created and tried to hand the last remaining sample over to Victoria Newman, who he believed was a legitimate politician who would use it responsibly. Newman took the sample and then killed Cardosa by exploding his head, because that's what Newman does. She then gave the virus to her partner, Dr. Samir Shah, to continue developing it. In Season 4 of The Boys, Butcher learned about the virus and became obsessed with getting his hands on it. He kidnapped Samir and forced him to work on making the virus more potent, specifically strong enough to kill Homelander. The thing is, regular doses of the virus aren't strong enough to kill someone as powerful as Homelander. They can weaken him, but not finish him. A massively concentrated dose would theoretically be needed, and creating that requires time, resources, and expertise. By the end of Season 4, Butcher had killed Newman with his tentacle powers, stolen the sole remaining sample of the virus, and gone rogue with a plan to weaponize it against the entire supe population. And that's where we stand going into Season 5. Butcher has the virus. He has the motivation to use it, and the trailer shows him actively pursuing the goal of killing every supe on the planet. The most terrifying theory about the virus is that Butcher finds a way to make it contagious. In its current form, the virus needs to be administered directly, injected, or delivered via a specialized weapon. But if Butcher or Samir could engineer it to spread from supe to supe like an airborne pathogen, it would be unstoppable. Every person with Compound V in their system would eventually be infected. It would be a supe apocalypse. And this is directly parallel to the comics, where Butcher uses a defective strain of Compound V to achieve the same goal. The show has been adapting this plotline in its own way, using the virus instead of defective V, but the end result is the same concept. A weapon that doesn't discriminate between good supes and bad supes, between villains and allies, between adults and children. The more optimistic theory is that the virus gets used surgically, rather than as a weapon of mass destruction. Maybe Frenchie, who has a background in chemistry and engineering, figures out how to target it to specific individuals. Maybe they find a way to deliver a concentrated dose directly to Homelander without releasing it globally. Maybe the virus becomes a scalpel instead of a bomb. There's also the intriguing possibility that the virus could be modified not to kill, but to permanently depower. We know that small doses suppress abilities temporarily. What if someone cracks the formula to make that effect permanent? A version of the virus that strips Compound V from a person's system without killing them. That would be a genuinely hopeful outcome. Supes wouldn't die, they'd just become normal humans. Homelander wouldn't be killed. He'd just lose everything that makes him dangerous. Of course, that version of events is probably too clean for a show like The Boys, but it's interesting to think about, especially when you consider the implications for the wider franchise. Gen V is presumably continuing beyond The Boys, and if every supe in the world gets depowered, that changes the landscape of the spin-offs dramatically. Kripke confirmed that Season 5 takes place 6 months after the Gen V Season 2 finale, which means the events of both shows are directly connected. Characters from Gen V, including Marie Moreau, and her blood manipulation abilities will apparently cross over into the main show. And given that the virus was born at Godolkin University, those Gen V characters have intimate knowledge of how it works, which could make them crucial in the final battle. The virus represents the ultimate moral question at the heart of The Boys. If you have a weapon that could end the supe threat forever, do you use it? Even knowing it would kill innocent people? Even knowing it would kill children who were given Compound V before they could consent? Even knowing it would kill people like Starlight and Kimiko and A-Train who have tried to do the right thing? Where's the line between justice and genocide? That's what makes Butcher such a compelling antagonist in this final arc, because his answer to that question is clear. Kill them all. Every last one. And the rest of the boys are going to have to decide whether they agree or whether they're willing to fight their own leader to stop him. But honestly, the virus is only one piece of the puzzle when it comes to the question everyone has been asking since that Season 4 finale aired. And that question, the one that every fan has been debating and dreading and theorizing about for months, is brutally simple. Who's going to die? You know, before we get into the specifics, I want to take a moment to acknowledge something. The fact that we care this much about fictional characters, that the thought of losing them genuinely upsets us, that says something beautiful about what this show has accomplished. These aren't just names on a screen. They're people we've spent 5 years with. We've watched them grow, struggle, fail, and occasionally triumph. We've argued about their choices with friends and strangers online. We've felt genuinely anxious during their most dangerous moments, and genuinely relieved when they survived. That emotional investment is the real achievement of The Boys, not the special effects or the political satire or the shock value. The fact that underneath all the blood and chaos, the show made us love these messy, complicated, sometimes terrible people. And that love is what makes the prospect of losing them in the final season so genuinely painful. Kripke understands this. He's talked about how the hardest part of writing the final season wasn't the plot logistics or the action sequences. It was knowing that every character, death had to mean something, had to land emotionally, had to feel like a genuine loss rather than a plot convenience. He said that if a character dies in season 5, it's because their death serves the story in a way that nothing else could. Not for shock value, not for subverting expectations, but because the story demands it. With that in mind, let's talk about the topic nobody wants to discuss, but everybody has been thinking about since that season 4 finale. Who is going to die in the final season of The Boys? Now, this show has never been shy about killing characters. We've lost some genuinely beloved people over the years. Translucent in season 1, Becca at the end of season 2, Black Noir in season 3, Eddie Munson level fan favourites like Supersonic, who lasted about 4 episodes before Homelander brutally murdered him. And of course Maeve, who survived against all odds but had to fake her death and disappear forever, which is its own kind of ending. But there's always been this sense that the core group was protected. The main characters, the ones who've been there since the beginning, they always made it through. Even when Hopper died at the end of season 3, wait, wrong show. Even when it looked like certain death for members of the Boys, they'd find a way out. That's been the pattern for 4 seasons. Season 5 is different, and the people making it have been extremely clear about that. Carl Urban told Games Radar that there are fatalities right from the get-go and that anybody's fair game. He reiterated this at Tokyo Comic Con in 2025, with even more emphasis, saying nobody is safe, nobody, and that it's going to be a crazy, wild, fun ride. The way he said it, the way he paused before repeating nobody, it didn't feel like marketing hype. It felt like a warning. Eric Kripke said at a Deadline panel in May 2025 that there will probably be lots of deaths and that there's no guarantee of who's going to survive. He's compared the final season to an apocalypse multiple times. And Nathan Mitchell, who plays Black Noir II, added that some things are coming in season 5 that you're not going to have on your bingo card. That's an interesting choice of words, because it implies deaths that nobody is predicting, which is somehow more terrifying than the ones everyone expects. So let's go through the major characters and talk about who's most likely to meet their end. Billy Butcher is the most obvious candidate, and I think deep down, everyone knows it. His tumour has been killing him for 2 seasons. His body is deteriorating even as his powers grow more extreme. In the comics, he dies. More specifically, Huey kills him. And while the show might not go that far, Butcher's arc has been building toward a tragic conclusion for years. The question with Butcher isn't really if he dies, it's how. Does he go out as a hero, sacrificing himself to take down Homelander? Does he go out as a villain, stopped by Huey or the rest of the Boys? Or does he get something more complex, a death that's simultaneously heroic and villainous, where he does the right thing for the wrong reasons, or the wrong thing for the right ones? That feels most like a Boys ending to me. Nothing clean, nothing simple, just messy, human, and heartbreaking. Homelander almost certainly dies as well, and we've already discussed the leading theories about how that happens. The Oval Office setup from the trailer, the possibility of Ryan delivering the killing blow, Soldier Boy's power-neutralizing blast, or even the virus, if Butcher manages to get a concentrated dose close enough. Whatever method the show chooses, Homelander's death needs to feel earned after 5 seasons of build-up. It can't be anticlimactic. And knowing the Duffer Brothers... knowing Eric Kripke and his writing team, it won't be. The Deep is someone I'd put at very high risk, and honestly, I don't think many people will be upset about it. Chase Crawford has done an amazing job making the Deep simultaneously funny, pathetic, and genuinely repulsive. But the character has committed atrocity after atrocity across 4 seasons, from sexual assault to murder to helping cover up Homelander's crimes. He's had moments where it seemed like he might grow a conscience, but they never lasted. If the deep dies, it'll probably be in a way that's darkly comedic, because that's always been how the show handles him. Pathetic in life, pathetic in death. And honestly, that feels right for who he is. A-Train is a more complicated case. In the comics, Huey kills him after discovering that A-Train doesn't actually regret killing his girlfriend, Robin. But the show has taken A-Train in a completely different direction. TV A-Train has had a genuine redemption arc. He helped the boys on multiple occasions. He saved lives. He expressed real remorse for his past actions. And at the end of Season 4, a social media post from Vought's official account mentioned that A-Train was being deployed overseas, which is suspicious on its own. The theory for A-Train is that he comes back in Season 5 and sacrifices himself to save Huey or the rest of the boys. It would be a perfect bookend to his arc. The man who started the series by accidentally killing Huey's girlfriend would end it by deliberately giving his life to protect Huey. That's the kind of storytelling symmetry the boys excels at. Plus, A-Train has always had heart problems due to his compound V use, and those complications could easily come back at the worst possible moment. Mother's Milk is someone I worry about a lot. Laz Alonso has been one of the show's most underrated performers, bringing a grounded decency to that grounds the entire team. He's the moral centre, the one who tries to keep everyone focused and functioning, even when everything is falling apart. In the comics, Butcher kills him with a grenade. That's one of the most brutal deaths in the entire source material. The show might adapt some version of this, especially if Butcher turns fully villainous in the final episodes. Dying at Butcher's hands would be devastating, but it would also serve the story's themes about how hatred and revenge consume everyone, even the people you love. Frenchie and Kimiko are both at risk, and the fact that one of the confirmed episode titles is The Frenchman, the Female, and The Man Called Mother's Milk makes me very nervous. That title is pulled directly from the comics, where it refers to an origin story arc for those three characters. In a final season, using that title feels like a farewell, a spotlight episode that gives these beloved characters their moment in the sun before the inevitable. In the comics, Butcher kills both Frenchie and Kimiko, along with A bomb goes off, and all three die. The show has spent 4 seasons building the most tender love story between Frenchie and Kimiko, 2 broken people who found each other in the worst possible circumstances. Kimiko's journey from silent weapon to someone who chooses to speak, to love, to be human, has been one of the show's most beautiful arcs. And Frenchie's guilt, his substance abuse, his desperate need for connection, all of it has been building toward either a heartbreaking tragedy or a hard-won happy ending. With this show, I'm genuinely unsure which we'll get. Huey is the series' emotional point of view character, and in the comics, he survives. Jack Quaid has been the audience's surrogate since episode 1, the normal guy thrown into this insane world of supes and violence and political conspiracy. I think Huey survives the show as well. Not because he has plot armor, but because the story needs someone to carry the emotional weight of everything that happens. If Butcher dies, if characters fall, if the world changes forever, we need Huey to witness it and feel it on our behalf. Starlight, or Annie January, similarly survives in the comics and ends up with Huey. The show has set her up as the counterpoint to Homelander's corruption, someone who is inside the system and chose to fight against it. She's the face of hope in a world that has very little of it. Killing her would be nihilistic in a way that even the boys might not go for. I think she lives. And then there's Ryan, Homelander's son, Becca's child, Butcher's surrogate kid, the character who might be the most important piece on the entire board. Ryan Butcher, played by Cameron Crevetti, has had one of the most heartbreaking character arcs in the entire show. He's a child born from violence, since his existence is the result of Homelander's assault on Becca. He was raised in isolation by a mother who loved him fiercely, but also kept the truth of his origins hidden from him. He killed his own mother by accident when his heat vision activated uncontrollably. He was then caught in a tug-of-war between Butcher, who promised Becca he'd protect the boy, and Homelander, who wanted to mold Ryan into a weapon and an heir. Season 3 was where things got really complicated. Homelander took Ryan under his wing, and for a while, it worked. Ryan started to admire his father. There's that chilling scene where Homelander lays as a protester and Ryan smiles. For a moment, it looked like Homelander might actually succeed in corrupting his own son. But Season 4 changed things. Ryan started pushing back. He began questioning his father's worldview, resisting the propaganda, showing signs that his mother's influence was still in there somewhere. And then came the finale, where Ryan accidentally killed Grace Mallory with his powers and seemed almost numb to it. It was ambiguous. Was he traumatized and shutting down? Or was he genuinely unbothered, like his father would be? We couldn't tell, and that ambiguity is what makes Ryan so fascinating. He disappeared at the end of Season 4, and where he ends up in Season 5 is anyone's guess. The theory that's getting the most attention, and the one with the most thematic weight behind it, is that Ryan is the one who kills Homelander. The patricide theory? In the comics, Homelander is killed by Black Noir, who is a clone of Homelander created by Vought as a failsafe. The idea was that if Homelander ever went rogue, they'd have an identical supe who could take him down. The show eliminated this possibility by making Black Noir a completely different character who was killed in Season 3. But the show did introduce something the comics didn't have: a son. Ryan is essentially the show's replacement for the comic book Black Noir clone. He's another version of Homelander, same genetic material, potentially the same level of power, but raised by a different mother, with different values, in a completely different environment. He's what Homelander could have been if he'd been given love. If Ryan kills Homelander, it mirrors the comic's central twist, something that's essentially a version of Homelander destroying Homelander, but with infinitely more emotional weight. It's not a clone doing what it was programmed to do. It's a son choosing to reject everything his father represents. It's a child who knows he was conceived in violence, deciding that the cycle of violence ends with him. The show has been setting this up since Season 2. Ryan's growing awareness of what Homelander truly is, his conflicting loyalties between his biological father and his surrogate father, Butcher, his powers, which are potentially equal to Homelander's, but haven't been fully developed yet, and his knowledge, established in Season 4, that Homelander violated his mother, that Becca didn't choose any of this, that Ryan's entire existence is the product of his father's darkest act. If you're a parent, or if you think about what it would mean to discover something like that about your father, the emotional devastation of it is almost unimaginable. And for Ryan to take that knowledge and channel it into the act of stopping his father, of being the one person with the power and the moral authority to say, "You don't get to do this anymore," that would be the most emotionally devastating moment in the entire series. But there's a counter theory that I think is equally compelling. What if Ryan refuses to kill Homelander? The Boys has always been a show about cycles of violence. Butcher became violent because of what Homelander did to Becca. Homelander became violent because of what Vought did to him in the lab. Soldier Boy became violent because of what America made him into. Everyone in this story is a product of trauma being passed from one generation to the next. What if Ryan breaks the cycle by choosing not to kill, by choosing mercy, by looking at his father, understanding exactly what he is and still refusing to become a murderer? That would be a different kind of statement, equally valid and arguably even more hopeful. It would say that your origins don't define you, that you can choose to be better than the people who created you. Of course, this is The Boys, and hope on this show tends to come with a very steep price. If Ryan refuses to kill Homelander, someone else has to do it. And that someone might die in the process. Cameron Crovetti, who plays Ryan, has been growing into the role beautifully over the past few seasons. He was only about 11 years old when he started filming. Watching him develop as both an actor and a character has been one of the quiet pleasures of the show. And wherever his arc goes in Season 5, whether he becomes the hero who ends Homelander's reign, or the child who breaks the cycle by choosing peace, it's going to be one of the most talked about storylines of the year. There's a fun detail that some people miss about Cameron. He's actually a twin. His brother Nicholas has also appeared in television, though not in The Boys. Cameron has talked in interviews about how playing Ryan has been a challenge, because the character goes to such dark emotional places, and he's had to develop a real maturity to handle that kind of material at such a young age. You know, what really makes Ryan's situation so impossible is that both of his father figures are essentially asking him to choose violence. Homelander wants Ryan to embrace his power and use it to dominate others. Butcher, before he went rogue, was grooming Ryan to be a weapon against Homelander. Neither of them was really thinking about what Ryan wanted. They were both using him in their own ways for their own agendas. And maybe the bravest thing Ryan can do in Season 5 is reject both of those paths and forge his own. But Ryan's story doesn't exist in isolation. It's connected to every other relationship in the show, every bond that's been built and broken over 5 seasons. And those relationships, the friendships and romances and complicated family dynamics, are really what give The Boys its heart beneath all the blood and satire. So let's shift gears a bit and talk about the emotional side of things, the love stories, the friendships, the bonds that are going to be tested in ways they've never been tested before. I think it's worth noting how unusual it is for a show this violent and cynical to also be this emotionally rich. Most prestige TV shows that deal with dark subject matter tend to keep their characters at arm's length. They observe from a distance, maintaining an ironic detachment that protects both the viewer and the storyteller from genuine feeling. The Boys doesn't do that. It throws you right into the middle of these relationships and dares you not to care. And every time you think the show is going to prioritize shock value over emotional truth, it surprises you by doing both simultaneously. That's what makes the final season so terrifying. Not the battles or the superpowers or the gore, the knowledge that the writers have the ability, and possibly the willingness, to break your heart. If there's one thing that separates The Boys from other dark, cynical shows about power and corruption, it's the relationships. Because underneath all the gore and the political satire and the commentary about corporate America, this is fundamentally a show about people trying to hold on to each other in impossible circumstances. The friendships, the romances, the complicated family bonds, those are the things that keep you coming back, even when the violence gets overwhelming. So let's talk about the relationships that need resolving in Season 5, because there are quite a few, and some of them have been building since the very first episode. Huey and Annie are the emotional centre of the entire series, and they have been from the beginning. Jack Quaid and Erin Moriarty have this chemistry that feels genuinely natural, which is impressive given that their relationship started under the most bizarre circumstances imaginable. Huey's girlfriend was killed by A-Train in the pilot. He was recruited into The Boys. He went undercover and met Annie, who was Starlight, a member of the Seven. They fell for each other without knowing they were on opposite sides. And when the truth came out, instead of destroying them, it brought them closer together. Over 4 seasons, they've been through hell together. Annie left the Seven. She went public about Vaught's corruption. She became a fugitive, a resistance leader, a symbol of hope, and through all of it, Huey has been by her side, not as her protector because Annie doesn't need protecting, but as her partner, the person who believes in her when nobody else does. At the end of Season 4, they were separated. Annie used her powers to fly away when the boys were being captured, presumably to find help or mount a rescue. Huey was taken by Vaught's forces along with the rest of the team. Their reunion in Season 5 is going to be significant because it's not just about 2 people finding each other again. It's about the emotional foundation of the show being restored. In the comics, Huey and Annie end up together. They survive the final conflict and get something resembling a happy ending, which is remarkable given how dark the source material is. I think the show will do the same. If there's one couple the audience needs to see make it through, it's them. Not because they deserve it more than anyone else, but because their relationship represents the possibility that love can survive in a world designed to destroy it. Frenchie and Kimiko have one of the most beautiful love stories on television, and I will fight anyone who disagrees. These are two people who are both broken by the world. Frenchie carries enormous guilt from his past, from the people he's hurt and the choices he's made. He struggled with addiction, with self-worth, with the feeling that he doesn't deserve happiness. And Kimiko was literally created to be a weapon. She was trafficked, experimented on, given compound V against her will, and turned into a killing machine. And somehow, in the middle of all that darkness, they found each other. Their relationship started as something silent and protective. Frenchie looking after Kimiko, Kimiko watching over Frenchie. It evolved into something deeper as Kimiko learned sign language and then eventually, in season 4, spoke out loud for the first time. That moment, Kimiko's voice being heard after seasons of silence, was one of the most emotional beats the show has ever delivered. Season 4 also explored Frenchie's sexuality and his past relationships, adding layers to a character who had always been somewhat enigmatic. Toma Capone brought such vulnerability to those scenes, and the way the show handled Frenchie's identity felt organic rather than performative. It made him more human, more real, more someone you desperately want to see survive. The big fear with Frenchie and Kimiko is that the show will follow the comics and kill them both. In the source material, they die together at Butcher's hands. The episode title, The Frenchman, the Female, and the Man Called Mother's Milk, suggests that, at minimum, these three characters are getting a spotlight episode. Whether that spotlight is a celebration of their bond or a farewell is the question keeping me up at night. If Frenchie and Kimiko die, I want them to die together, and I want their last moment to be something quiet and tender, not explosive and dramatic. They've earned that. After everything they've been through, they deserve a moment of peace, even if it's their last. Mother's Milk is the character I'm most worried about, honestly, because MM has always been the most normal member of the boys. He's not driven by revenge like Butcher. He's not a former supe like Annie. He's just a man who knows right from wrong and refuses to look the other way. He's the dad of the group, literally. He has a daughter he's fighting to protect, an ex-wife he still cares about, and a deep, abiding sense of justice that keeps him going even when everything seems hopeless. Laz Alonso has been so consistently good in this role that I think people sometimes take him for granted, but MM is the heart of the team in a way that's different from Huey. Where Huey represents the audience's moral compass, MM represents the team's. He's the one who calls out Butcher when he goes too far. He's the one who insists on doing things the right way, even when the right way is harder. And if Butcher turns fully villainous in season 5, MM is probably the first person who would stand in his way. In the comics, that confrontation between Butcher and MM ends with MM's death. It's brutal and final and heartbreaking. The show might soften this or change it entirely, but the setup is there. If Butcher's arc goes as dark as the theories suggest, someone from the team is going to be his first victim. And MM's unwavering moral clarity makes him the most likely candidate, because he's the one who would refuse to back down. The relationship between Butcher and Huey deserves special attention, because it's arguably the most important dynamic in the entire show. Butcher recruited Huey back in season 1, took him under his wing, turned him from a scared kid working at an electronics store into a genuine fighter. But over the seasons, their relationship has evolved from mentor-student into something more like father and son. Huey looks up to Butcher. He loves him. And Butcher, despite himself, loves Huey back. That's what makes the comic book ending so devastating. Butcher turns on everyone, and Huey is the one who has to stop him. A son killing his father. It mirrors Ryan's situation with Homelander. Both boys are forced to confront the men who shaped them and make impossible choices about loyalty and love and survival. If the show goes this route, the The final scene of The Boys might not be a superhero battle at all. It might be two men in a room, one of them holding a weapon, the other knowing he deserves what's coming. And the question won't be about power or politics or supes. It'll be about whether Huey can bring himself to do what needs to be done, and whether Butcher, in his final moments, remembers the man he used to be. Okay, I need to lighten the mood a bit, because this is supposed to be a sleep video, and I'm working myself up. So let's talk about some of the new faces and returning characters joining the final season, because there are quite a few, and some of them are really exciting. But first, a quick thought about something that doesn't get discussed enough. The supporting cast of supes who aren't in the 7 but have made huge impressions on the show. Characters like Cindy, the telekinetic girl from the Sage Grove Center in Season 2, who shaved her head and walked menacingly down a road, and was never seen again until she showed up briefly in the Season 4 finale to capture Huey. Where has she been? What does she want? Is she working for Homelander or for herself? There are dozens of powered characters in this universe whose stories are incomplete, and Season 5 has the opportunity to bring some of them back in surprising ways. And then there's the question of what happened to Love Sausage, the Russian super with the distinctive appendage who has appeared in multiple seasons as a recurring nuisance. He was the one who captured Mother's Milk at the end of Season 4. It's a running joke, but it's also a reminder that in the world of The Boys, danger can come from the most absurd and undignified places. Not every threat is a godlike being in a cape. Sometimes it's a Russian man with a very specific anatomical enhancement. The point is, the world of The Boys is populated with hundreds of supes, most of whom we've barely met. Season 5 has 8 episodes to bring this world to a conclusion, and I wouldn't be surprised if some of those minor characters play unexpectedly important roles. Kripke loves using background details as setups for future payoffs, and he's had 5 seasons to plant those seeds. The biggest new addition to Season 5 is Daveed Diggs as O-Father. Now, if you know Daveed Diggs from Hamilton, where he originated the dual role of Lafayette and Thomas Jefferson, you know, this man has charisma to spare. O-Father is described as a deeply religious supe with ties to Homelander. We don't know much more than that, but the religious angle is interesting because it's relatively unexplored territory for The Boys. We've seen political corruption, corporate corruption, military corruption, media corruption. But religious fervour, combined with supe powers, that's a new kind of terrifying. The question is whether O-Father is an ally of Homelander's, another zealot in his growing army, or someone who believes in a higher power than Homelander and might challenge his self-proclaimed godhood. Either way, Diggs is going to bring something special to the role. The man has range that most actors dream about. Mason Dye, who some people will recognise from Stranger Things, where he played Jason Carver, has been cast as Bombsight. This is a character who was name-dropped back in Season 4, but never actually appeared on screen. Bombsight is described as a seemingly ageless supe, which immediately connects him to Homelander's quest for immortality and V1. If there's a supe out there who has already achieved what Homelander is seeking, that's an enormously important plot point. Is Bombsight an ally, a rival, a cautionary tale about what immortality actually costs? And then, of course, there's the supernatural reunion. We've already talked about Jensen Ackles returning as Soldier Boy, but the addition of Jared Padalecki and Misha Collins completes what Eric Kripke jokingly called his supernatural Pokemon collection. Kripke created Supernatural back in 2005 and ran it for 5 seasons before stepping back, though the show continued for another 10 years. Having the 3 leads from his first major creation appear together in his current creation is the kind of meta-storytelling moment that fans live for. We don't know who Padalecki and Collins are playing. The trailer showed them in scenes with Ackles, suggesting their characters interact with Soldier Boy. Some theories suggest they could be playing old military buddies from Soldier Boy's past. Others think they might be scientists connected to Vaught's early experiments. And there's a vocal minority of fans who are holding out hope for some kind of actual supernatural crossover, which is almost certainly not happening but is fun to imagine. What I love about this casting is that it shows Kripke isn't just phoning in the final season, he's bringing his best talent, his favourite collaborators, and his most creative instincts to make sure this ending is something special. You don't cast actors of this calibre in throwaway roles. Padalecki and Collins are going to matter to the plot in meaningful ways. There are also Gen 5 characters crossing over into the main show. Kripke confirmed that Season 5 takes place 6 months after Gen 5 Season 2's finale, and the two shows' narratives are directly linked. We can expect appearances from characters like Marie Moreau, played by Jazz Sinclair, who has blood manipulation powers that could be crucial to the fight against Homelander. Kate Dunlap, the Mind Controller. Sam Reardon, who has issues of his own with the system, and possibly Stan Edgar, played by the always excellent Giancarlo Esposito, the former Vought CEO, who's been playing chess while everyone else plays checkers. Stan Edgar is a character I'm particularly interested in seeing return. He's not a supe, he has no powers whatsoever, but he's arguably the smartest person in the entire Boys universe. He ran Vought for decades, manipulated everyone from Homelander to the government, and even after being removed from power, you get the sense that he's still 3 moves ahead of everyone else. If there's a mastermind play to be made in the final season, Edgar might be the one to make it. There's also Ashley Barrett, played by Colby Minify, whose situation after the Season 4 finale is genuinely fascinating. Ashley was Homelander's long-suffering PR handler, constantly terrified, constantly humiliated, constantly on the verge of a breakdown. When Homelander ordered the Seven to eliminate anyone with dirt on them, Ashley was at the top of the list. In a moment of pure desperation, she injected herself with Compound 5. The last we saw of her, she was writhing on the floor in pain, her scalp bulging with some kind of transformation. The most popular fan theory about Ashley is that the Compound V gave her super intelligence, similar to Marvel's The Leader or the character Sister Sage on the show itself. Ashley was never dumb, she was just terrified into submission, but if V enhanced her mental capabilities to genius levels, suddenly she becomes one of the most dangerous people in the story. She knows everything about Vought, about Homelander, about the Seven secrets, and now she might have the intelligence to weaponize that knowledge in ways nobody expects. And we should talk about Jeffrey Dean Morgan's presence in Season 5. Morgan played Joe Kessler, or rather, he played Butcher's hallucination of Kessler, the dark voice in Butcher's head that pushed him toward genocide. Now that Butcher has embraced that dark side, the Kessler hallucination might still be present as a kind of devil on his shoulder. Morgan is such a commanding screen presence that even a limited role carries significant weight. Every scene with him is going to feel like Butcher arguing with his own worst impulses. There's also the Russian connection from Season 4, characters like Dmitri, also known as Enzo, who helped Hopper escape the Russian prison. Who helped Hopper. No, that's Stranger Things again. Let me try that again. Dmitri helped Butcher and the team in their dealings with the Russian subplot. And Yuri, the smuggler who proved useful, despite being unreliable. Whether either of them returns is unclear, but the Russian thread has been dangling for a couple of seasons now. The Soviets were trying to open their own portals and experiment with Compound 5. What they discovered could be relevant to the final battle. When you look at all the characters in play for Season 5, it's staggering. The main boys team. Homelander and the remains of the Seven. Soldier Boy, the Gen V kids, new supes like O'Father and Bombsight, Butcher operating as a rogue agent, the government, Vaught's corporate infrastructure. It's the biggest cast and the most complex web of alliances and conflicts the show has ever attempted. And all of these threads need to converge in just 8 episodes. That's an enormous challenge for the writers, but it's also what makes the final season so exciting. Every character has a role to play. Every relationship matters. Every alliance could shift at any moment. And the show has earned enough trust over 4 seasons that I believe they can pull it off. What's also fascinating is that the Duffer brothers, I keep doing that, What's fascinating is that Kripke and his writers have been planning for this convergence since the beginning. This isn't a show that's making things up as it goes along. The connections between The Boys, Gen V, and even the animated Diabolical series were all seeded years in advance. Season 5 isn't just a finale for one show, it's the culmination of an entire interconnected universe. But all these characters and storylines ultimately lead to one question. The question that every fan of the show has been asking, arguing about, and dreading since the moment Kripke announced this would be the final season. How does it all end? How does it end? That's the question. And honestly, I've been thinking about it probably more than is healthy. Because The Boys isn't just any show ending. It's a show that has consistently surprised its audience for 4 seasons straight. Taking the superhero genre and turning it inside out, using capes and superpowers to talk about things like fascism, corporate greed, the abuse of power, media manipulation, and the way trauma passes from one generation to the next. A show that ambitious, that thematically rich, needs an ending that matches. And based on everything we know, I think they might actually pull it off. Let's start with the logistics. Season 5 has 8 episodes. The premiere drops 2 episodes on April 8th, 2026. And after that, it's 1 episode per week every Wednesday until the series finale on May 20th. Kripke has said the episodes will be longer than in previous seasons, especially the finale, which some sources suggest could run close to feature length. That extended runtime gives the writers space to do something truly epic, to have the massive battle sequences, but also the quiet emotional moments, the goodbyes, the resolutions that a show like this deserves. The confirmed episode titles tell us quite a bit about what's coming, even though they were released out of order, so we don't know the exact sequence. Teenage Kicks is a reference to a group of young supes from the comics, essentially a raunchier, more corrupt version of the Teen Titans. Their inclusion could connect to the Gen 5 crossover storyline, or introduce yet another faction in the already complex power struggle. Every one of you sons of bitches sounds like a butcher line, and it has the energy of a rallying cry or a final stand. This could be the episode where the boys regroup and commit to one last mission. Though the heavens fall is a legal phrase, fiat justitia ruat caelum, which translates to let justice be done though the heavens fall. That's a statement about pursuing justice regardless of the consequences, which feels very much like the moral argument at the centre of the show. Is stopping Homelander worth any cost, even if the heavens literally fall in the process? One-shots in comic book terminology refers to standalone stories. As an episode title, it might indicate a self-contained story, perhaps flashbacks to characters' pasts, or a time skip episode. King of Hell is such a loaded title. In religious terms, it's Satan. In the context of The Boys, it could refer to Homelander ruling his dystopian America, or to Butcher becoming something truly monstrous. Or it could refer to both. The idea that the hero and the villain have both become kings of their own personal hells. The Frenchman, the female, and the man called Mother's Milk is pulled directly from the comic book arc that explored the origins of those 3 characters. As a final season episode title, it strongly suggests a spotlight on Frenchie, Kimiko, and MM. Whether that spotlight is a farewell or a celebration remains to be seen. But the comic connection makes me nervous. And Blood and Bone, that's a visceral title that could refer to the physical costs of the final battle, or to family ties, blood relations. Homelander and Soldier Boy. Homelander and Ryan. Butcher and the memory of Becca. Blood and Bone is what you're left with when everything else is stripped away. Now let's talk about how the actual story might play out. Based on everything we know, every confirmed detail, and every credible theory, here's my best guess at the shape of Season 5. The first 2 episodes will deal with the immediate aftermath of the Season 4 finale. The boys are scattered and captured. Homelander controls America. Butcher is on the run with the virus. The Premier needs to establish the new status quo and start the process of getting the team back together. Karl Urban literally said at Tokyo Comic Con that the first order of business is getting the gang back together. So episodes 1 and 2 are probably about escape, regrouping, and establishing the plan for the season. The middle episodes, roughly 3 through 6, will be about building toward the confrontation with Homelander. This is where Soldier Boy returns from cryo, where the supernatural cameos happen, where the Gen 5 characters cross over, and where the alliances form. It's also where Butcher's darker turn becomes apparent to the rest of the team, creating tension within the group, even as they're trying to fight a common enemy. I think Homelander's death happens around episode 6 or 7, not in the finale. That might sound surprising, because Homelander has been the big bad for the entire series. But if the show is adapting the comic's ending, even loosely, then Homelander's death is the midpoint crisis, not the conclusion. The real final conflict is what comes after. Once Homelander falls, the virus question becomes the central tension. Butcher has the weapon that could end all supers. The rest of the team has to decide whether to let him use it. And that moral argument, the question of whether genocide can ever be justified even against a genuine threat, becomes the engine that drives the final episodes. The series finale, which I'm guessing is Blood and Bone, based on the title's weight and finality, will resolve everything. Butcher's fate, Ryan's choice, the future of the supe population, and hopefully a glimpse of what comes next for the survivors. Now let's dig deeper into the comic book ending, because even though the show has diverged significantly from the source material, Kripke clearly respects Garth Ennis's original vision and has adapted key beats throughout the series. In the comics, the ending plays out roughly like this. Homelander, who has been manipulated into believing he committed atrocities he didn't actually commit, thanks to Black Noir's manipulation, eventually snaps and attacks the White House. This leads to a massive battle where the military gets involved. Black Noir reveals himself as a Homelander clone, and the two fight, with Noir killing Homelander but sustaining fatal injuries himself. Butcher then finishes off Black Noir. But that's not the end of the comics. After Homelander is dead, Butcher reveals his true plan. He's going to use a weaponized version of Compound 5 to kill every person on Earth who has the compound in their system. Not just active supes, but anyone who was ever given V, including supes who retired, children who were dosed at birth, and even people who received it unknowingly. It's global genocide on a scale that dwarfs anything Homelander ever attempted. The boys try to stop him. Butcher kills Mother's Milk, Frenchie, and Kimiko. The only person left is Huey, who tracks Butcher to the top of the Empire State Building. They have their final confrontation, and Huey, the guy who started the series as a mild-mannered nobody, pushes Butcher off the building. Butcher falls to his death, and Huey walks away, broken but alive, eventually finding some kind of peace with Annie. It's a bleak ending, genuinely bleak, and the show is almost certainly not going to replicate it beat for beat. Karl Urban's Butcher is too sympathetic for the full villain turn to feel right. The show has invested too much in making audiences love these characters to kill them all off in a grenade blast. And Kripke has shown throughout the series that he can adapt the spirit of the comics without being enslaved by the specifics. But the bones of that ending, Butcher as the final threat, Huey as the person who stops him, love and decency winning over hatred and violence, those themes are absolutely going to be present in the final season. The form might change, the emotional truth won't. What I think is most likely is a version of events where Butcher does go too far, maybe even kills someone beloved in the process, but is ultimately redeemed in his final moments. Maybe he comes close to releasing the virus globally, but stops himself. Maybe Huey reaches him emotionally, reminds him of who he used to be, and Butcher chooses to die as himself rather than as the monster he's become. Maybe Ryan is the one who reaches him, and the promise Butcher made to Becca is what brings him back from the edge. Kripke has talked about wanting the ending to feel like a proper conclusion, not a reset. He's referenced the endings of classic films and television shows, stories that end with both triumph and loss. The heroes win, but not without sacrifice. Things return to something like normal, but nothing will ever be the same. I think Season 5 will end with an epilogue. Maybe not a time jump as dramatic as Harry Potter's 19 years later, but something. A few months, a year, enough time to show that life goes on, that Huey and Annie found some version of happiness, that MM is with his daughter, that the survivors are healing, slowly, in their own ways. The universe will continue beyond the boys. Kripke has confirmed that Vought Rising, a prequel spin-off set in the 1950s, exploring the origins of Vought International, is in active development. Gen V is likely coming back for a third season. The boys ending doesn't have to wrap up everything because the franchise will keep going. But it does need to provide closure for these specific characters, this specific story. And honestly, I trust them. I trust Kripke, I trust the writers, I trust the cast. They've been planning this for 5 years, and everything I've seen suggests they're going to deliver something that respects both the audience and the story. There's one more thing about the ending that I want to mention before we move on to the more speculative territory. The episode title, King of Hell, is fascinating to me because it suggests a kind of duality. In Christian mythology, the King of Hell is Satan, the fallen angel who was once God's most beloved creation. That's Homelander in a nutshell. Vaught's greatest creation, their most beloved product, turned into the greatest threat the world has ever known. But in Supernatural, which Kripke also created, the King of Hell was Crowley, a character who started as a villain but became something more complex over time. A villain who sometimes did the right thing for the wrong reasons. That sounds a lot like Butcher. So maybe King of Hell isn't about one character. Maybe it's about both. Homelander and Butcher, two kings of their own private hells, both reaching the end of the road in the same episode. That would be something. But we've been pretty serious for a while now, and this is supposed to be a cozy evening together. So before we start winding down, let's talk about some theories that are probably completely wrong, but are too entertaining not to mention. The wild ones. The ones that make you laugh and then think, but what if? I should mention that one of the things that makes theorizing about the boys so much fun is that the show has a history of doing things that nobody predicted. Who guessed that Soldier Boy would turn out to be Homelander's father? Who predicted that Butcher would develop tentacle powers from a sentient tumour? Who saw the Ashley Compound V injection coming? The Boys has trained its audience to expect the unexpected, which means even the wildest theories have a non-zero chance of being right. And the creative team seems to enjoy the speculation. The show's social media accounts regularly engage with fan theories, sometimes teasing them, sometimes debunking them, sometimes just fanning the flames. Nathan Mitchell's comment about Season 5 containing things not on anyone's bingo card was almost certainly designed to fuel more theorizing. They want us to guess, they want us to debate, and they want us to be surprised when the truth is somehow stranger than anything we imagined. Let's start with the theory that won't die, even though it's probably the least likely to actually happen. Some fans are absolutely convinced that the boys will end with a full supernatural crossover. Not just the actors appearing in roles, which is confirmed, but actual Sam and Dean Winchester existing in the same universe as Homelander and Butcher. The idea is that Kripke, having created both universes, would do some kind of multiversal crossover where the Winchester brothers show up to help fight supes with their monster hunting expertise. Now look, I love Supernatural, and I love the idea of Dean Winchester trying to talk sense into Soldier Boy while Sam researches whether holy water works on Compound V. But this is not going to happen. The tonal mismatch alone would be absurd. And Kripke has been very clear that the boys exists in its own reality. The Supernatural casting is a gift for fans and a fun creative reunion, not a literal crossover. But it is genuinely delightful to imagine, and the internet has produced some truly wonderful fan art of the Winchesters taking on the Seven. So I'll give the fandom that. Here's a theory that's a bit more grounded but still pretty wild. Some fans believe that Homelander won't actually die in Season 5, and will instead survive to appear in Gen 5 Season 3 or other franchise continuations. The argument goes that Homelander is the franchise's biggest draw, that Anthony Starr's portrayal is what makes the entire universe work, and that killing him off would be a strategic mistake for Amazon's investment in the property. There's a version of this theory where Homelander is depowered by the virus or by Soldier Boy's blast and has to live the rest of his life as a normal human. No flying, no laser eyes, no invulnerability, just a man who was once a god, now completely ordinary and utterly incapable of dealing with it. That's actually a really interesting punishment, arguably worse than death for someone with Homelander's psychology. Imagine him sitting in a prison cell, mortal, aging, irrelevant, while the world moves on without him. That's a horror story for Homelander, but I think they'll kill him. The show has been building to it for too long, and letting him live would undermine the stakes of the entire series. Plus, Kripke has never struck me as the kind of storyteller who would compromise his ending for franchise considerations. If the story demands Homelander's death, Homelander dies, full stop. There's a wild one circulating on Reddit about Homelander's milk obsession actually being foreshadowing. The theory goes something like this. Homelander's dependency on breast milk is a manifestation of his need for maternal nurturing, something he was completely denied in the lab. The milk represents comfort, safety, and love. And if someone were to deprive him of it, or if the stress of Season 5 makes him unable to find comfort in it anymore, he'll psychologically unravel in ways that make him vulnerable. I mean, it's creative, I'll give it that. And there's actually some interesting psychological grounding to the idea that Homelander's coping mechanisms are tied to his emotional stability. But I don't think the writers are going to have Homelander's downfall be related to dairy products. That feels like it would undercut the dramatic weight they've been building. Now here's one that I think is more plausible than people give it credit for. What if the show ends with a flash forward? Not just an epilogue set a few months later, but a genuine time skip, maybe 5 or 10 years into the future. And in that future, we see Ryan Butcher as a young adult. And the question the flash forward poses is this: did Ryan become a hero, or did he become the next Homelander? If Ryan became a hero, it validates everything the show has been saying about breaking cycles of trauma. The son of a monster chose to be something better. Love won. Becca's influence outlasted Homelander's. That's hopeful. But if Ryan became the next Homelander, it says something much darker. That the cycle can't be broken. That power corrupts regardless of upbringing. That the world is doomed to repeat its mistakes. And suddenly the entire franchise has a new villain for future installments. One that's even more tragic than the original because we watched him grow up. I think Kripke will go with the hopeful version. The Boys is cynical, but it's not nihilistic. At its core, it believes that ordinary people can stand up to extraordinary evil. It believes in friendship and love and decency as forces strong enough to counterbalance power and cruelty. A truly hopeless ending would betray that core belief. There's a theory about the Deep that I find darkly hilarious. Some fans think the Deep will survive the entire series, not because he's smart or capable, but because he's so pathetic and so insignificant to the actual power players that nobody bothers to kill him. While everyone else is having their epic final battles and emotional death scenes, the Deep is somewhere in the background, forgotten, maybe talking to an octopus or something. And in the epilogue, he's just still there, living his sad little life, completely unchanged by the apocalyptic events around him. That would be so perfectly in character for the Deep. He's the embodiment of failing upward, of being too mediocre to be worth the effort of destroying. Chase Crawford would absolutely nail that kind of bleak comedic ending. There's a more serious theory that I think deserves attention, about Ashley Barrett becoming a major player in the final season. We talked about this briefly when discussing new characters, but let me expand on it. Ashley injected herself with Compound 5 in the Season 4 finale. Her scalp was bulging, suggesting some kind of dramatic, physical transformation. The most popular theory is that the V gave her enhanced intelligence, turning her into a genius on par with or exceeding Sister Sage, who we met in Season 4 as the smartest person on the planet. But there's an alternative theory that I find even more interesting. What if the V didn't give Ashley intelligence? What if it gave her shape-shifting abilities, or telepathy, or some power that's completely unexpected and changes the dynamics of the final season in a way nobody anticipated? Nathan Mitchell did say things are coming that aren't on anyone's bingo card. Ashley, who has spent 4 seasons as a terrified, abused underling, suddenly becoming one of the most powerful people in the story would certainly qualify. Regardless of what her powers are, Ashley has something that most supes don't. Information. She's been Homelander's right hand for years. She knows every secret, every cover-up, every skeleton in every closet. If she now has the power to act on that knowledge, she could be the most dangerous person in the room. And that's a delicious irony for a character who was defined by her powerlessness. Let me talk about something a bit more thematic, because I think it's worth discussing what The Boys is actually about, and how that might inform its ending. Because this show is about a lot of things simultaneously, and different viewers connect with different layers of it. On the surface, The Boys is about corrupt superheroes. It's a satire of the superhero industrial complex, of Marvel and DC, and the cultural dominance of Cape content. And it's brilliant at that level. The jokes about Vought's marketing, the in-universe movies and TV shows, the corporate synergy and brand management, all of it is razor-sharp commentary on how our culture manufactures and consumes heroes. But beneath that, The Boys is about power. Specifically, it's about what happens when power exists without accountability. Homelander can kill anyone he wants because nobody can stop him. Vought can do anything it wants because it's too big to fail. Politicians can be controlled because they're vulnerable, and supes are not. The entire system is built on the fundamental inequality between people who have power and people who don't. And the show's answer to that inequality isn't another form of power. It's not that the good guys need bigger guns or stronger supes. The show's answer is ordinary people refusing to accept the status quo. Huey, a normal guy, standing up to the most powerful beings on Earth. Annie, a supe who chooses to use her abilities for actual good rather than corporate profit. M, a father who just wants a safe world for his daughter. These are the heroes, not because of what they can do, but because of what they choose to do. That thematic core is going to determine the ending. I'm sure of it. Whatever happens in the plot, whoever lives and dies, the final message of The Boys will be about ordinary decency, triumphing over extraordinary cruelty. Not easily, not cleanly, not without terrible sacrifice, but ultimately, stubbornly, beautifully. There's another thematic layer that I think will be central to the finale, and it's about fatherhood. The Boys is absolutely obsessed with fathers. Homelander never had one, and became a monster because of that absence. Soldier Boy is a terrible father who rejected his son and broke something inside him forever. Butcher is a surrogate father to both Huey and Ryan, and he's failing at it in different ways. Is fighting to be a present father to his daughter, despite the chaos consuming his life. And Stan Edgar was a father figure to Newman, teaching her to survive through manipulation rather than love. Every one of these father relationships is damaged. Everyone produces pain. And the question Season 5 is going to answer is whether any of them can be repaired. Can Butcher honour his promise to Becca and actually be there for Ryan? Can Ryan break free from both Homelander's corruption and Butcher's weaponization? Can Huey become the man Butcher should have been? The decent, gentle, loving presence that the younger generation needs? I think the show is going to end with an image of fatherhood redeemed, not through Homelander, who is beyond redemption, not through Butcher, who might be as well, but through Huey, through the ordinary guy who learned how to fight but never lost his capacity for love. If the show ends with Huey caring for Ryan, raising him, being the father that neither Homelander nor Butcher could be, that would be the perfect thematic conclusion. The cycle of toxic masculinity and broken fatherhood finally ended by someone who chose gentleness over violence. Now, I also want to touch on the political dimension of the show, because it's impossible to talk about The Boys without acknowledging how directly it comments on real-world politics. Season 4 was particularly explicit about this, depicting Homelander's rise to power through demagoguery, propaganda, and the exploitation of populist anger. The show isn't subtle about its targets, and it shouldn't be. Art that engages with fascism should be unambiguous in its condemnation. Season 5 is set in a world where that fascism has won, at least temporarily. Homelander controls America, dissenters are in freedom camps, the free press has been silenced, the government is a puppet state. For a show that premiered in 2019, the escalation from corporate corruption to outright authoritarianism has felt disturbingly relevant to its audience, regardless of which side of the political aisle they sit on. The ending of the show needs to address this. It needs to show that fascism can be defeated, not through a single heroic act, but through collective resistance, through ordinary people refusing to comply, through institutions being rebuilt from the ground up. The Boys has never been a show about one person saving the world. It's about a group of flawed, messy, complicated humans working together, because that's the only way to survive. If the finale shows America rebuilding after Homelander's fall, if it shows the slow, difficult, unglamorous work of restoring democracy and accountability, that would be a statement. Not just an entertaining ending to a television show, but a reminder that the real fight never ends with one big battle. It continues every day, in every choice we make about how to treat each other and what kind of society we want to live in. All right, I've gotten a bit philosophical. Let me bring it back to the theories for a moment, because there are a couple more fun ones I want to cover before we start wrapping up. There's a theory that the soup virus, when finally deployed, will have an unexpected side effect. Instead of killing all supes, it might strip them of their powers permanently, but leave them alive. And the twist would be that Butcher himself, who now has Compound 5 in his system, would also lose his powers. He'd lose the tentacles, the enhanced abilities, everything that made him dangerous. And then he'd be just Billy Butcher again, a mortal man dying of cancer, with no way to fight anymore. If Butcher loses his powers right before his final confrontation with Homelander, or with Huey, it changes the dynamics completely. Suddenly it's not a battle of supes, it's just two men in a room, and the question becomes not who's stronger, but who's right. That's the kind of stripped down, emotionally raw finale that The Boys does best. Another theory suggests that the finale will mirror the very first episode. Season 1 opened with Huey watching helplessly as A-Train killed his girlfriend Robin by running through her at super speed. What if the finale ends with a similar moment, but inverted? Instead of powerlessness, Huey has a choice. Instead of being the victim, he's the one with the ability to act. And this time, he makes a different choice. He doesn't stand there frozen, he moves, he acts, he saves someone. That kind of narrative bookend would be really satisfying. Starting the series with Huey as a helpless bystander, and ending it with him as someone who chooses to be brave. Not because he has powers, not because he's special, but because he's grown enough as a person to know that doing nothing is not an option. There's actually a really lovely theory about the final scene specifically. Some fans think the very last image of The Boys will be Huey and Annie sitting somewhere quiet, maybe a park bench, maybe a diner, just being together. No supes, no Vought, no costumes or weapons or powers, just two people who survived something terrible and found each other on the other side. The camera pulls back. Life goes on around them. Cars pass, people walk their dogs, the sun is shining, and the show just ends. Quietly, gently, the way you'd want to end a story about love surviving in a world that tried to destroy it. I think that's a beautiful image, and honestly, after 5 seasons of the most extreme, graphic, disturbing content on television, ending on a moment of stillness and peace would be the biggest contrast the show could possibly make. It would say that all the violence, all the horror, all the sacrifice was worth it because of this. Two people, alive, together, free. I want that ending, I really do. But I also know the boys, and I know that Kripke's going to hurt us before he gives us anything that hopeful. So let's take a breath. Let me tell you a few more fun details, and then we'll start winding down for the night. Before we start wrapping up properly, I want to share some production details and behind-the-scenes information that I think adds a lot of context to how Season 5 was made and why the people involved care so much about getting it right. Filming for Season 5 started in November 2024 and wrapped in early July 2025. That's roughly 8 months of principal photography for 8 episodes, which is a generous schedule by television standards. It suggests that the production team took their time with this final season, that they weren't rushing to meet a deadline, but were genuinely invested in getting every detail right. When filming wrapped, Eric Kripke posted a heartfelt message online, saying goodbye to the set and the crew, and several cast members shared similar sentiments. By all accounts, it was an emotional shoot. The show films primarily in Toronto, Canada, which stands in for various American locations throughout the series. The production design has always been one of the show's strongest elements, creating a world that feels simultaneously like our reality and slightly off, slightly more corporate, slightly more saturated with propaganda and consumerism. That aesthetic is going to be even more important in Season 5, where the setting is essentially a fascist America decorated in Vought branding and Homelander imagery. Anthony Starr has talked about how playing Homelander has been one of the most challenging and rewarding experiences of his career. The physicality of the role alone is demanding. Homelander stands a certain way, moves a certain way, smiles in a way that's subtly wrong. Starr has mentioned that he developed a specific posture and gait for the character, something slightly too upright, too perfect, that creates an uncanny valley effect. He's also discussed how the emotional scenes, particularly the ones where Homelander is alone and vulnerable, are the hardest to film because they require him to access a genuine sense of grief and loneliness beneath all the menace. Carl Urban has been equally candid about Butcher's evolution. In early interviews, he described Butcher as a man driven by love, specifically his love for Becca, which twisted into something destructive. By Season 4, Urban was talking about playing the death of Butcher's soul, the moment when the last ember of goodness in him goes out. He's described the Season 5 material as the most demanding thing he's ever done as an actor, which is saying something given his career includes everything from Lord of the Rings to Star Trek. Jack Quaid, who plays Huey, has grown enormously as a performer over the course of the series. In Season 1, Huey was wide-eyed and overwhelmed, and Quaid played that beautifully. But by Season 4, Huey has become someone with steel in his spine, someone who's been through enough trauma to know how bad things can get and still chooses to fight. Quaid has talked about how the final season required him to go to emotional places he'd never reached before, and that the ending left him genuinely devastated when he read it. Erin Moriarty's portrayal of Starlight has been one of the show's quiet triumphs. Annie started as the naive newcomer to the Seven, a true believer who gradually discovered that everything she'd been taught was a lie. Over 4 seasons, Moriarty has transformed her into a leader, a fighter, and a symbol of resistance. She's talked about how important it was to her that Annie's strength comes from her values, not her powers. Annie would be a hero even without Compound 5. The superpowers are almost incidental to who she is. Toma Capone and Karen Fukuhara, who play Frenchie and Kimiko respectively, have one of the most unique acting challenges on the show. For the first 3 seasons, their relationship was communicated almost entirely through body language and sign language, since Kimiko didn't speak. Fukuhara has said that she approached the role by thinking about all the ways humans communicate without words, through gesture Posture, eye contact, physical proximity, and Capone matched her beat for beat, creating a dynamic that felt lived in and authentic despite the extraordinary circumstances. When Kimiko finally spoke in Season 4, Fukuhara described it as one of the most nerve-wracking moments of her career. She'd spent years defining the character through silence, and suddenly she had to find Kimiko's voice. The moment worked beautifully, in large part because the show had earned it through years of patient character development. Laz Alonso brings such grounded humanity to Mother's Milk that you sometimes forget you're watching a performance. MM feels like a real person in a way that transcends the genre trappings of the show. Alonso has talked about drawing on his own experiences as a father to inform MM's protective instincts and his fear of failing the people he loves. There's a weight to his performance that comes from somewhere genuine, and it's one of the reasons MM's potential death in Season 5 would be so devastating. Jensen Ackles brought Soldier Boy to life with a specific kind of charisma that makes the character compelling, even though he's objectively awful. Ackles has spoken about playing Soldier Boy as someone who genuinely believes he's the hero of every story, who can't see his own cruelty because he's been told his entire life that he's America's greatest asset. That oblivious narcissism, played with charm and humour and underlying menace, is what makes Soldier Boy such a perfect mirror for Homelander. They're the same person from different generations, both produced by the same corrupt system, both convinced they're gods among mortals. I also want to mention the writing team, because a show this ambitious doesn't work without exceptional writing. The Boys has consistently been one of the sharpest, funniest, most politically incisive shows on television. The writers managed to balance extreme violence with genuine emotion, broad comedy with subtle character work, and topical satire with timeless storytelling. That's incredibly hard to do, and they make it look effortless. Kripke has surrounded himself with writers who understand both the comic book source material and the real-world issues the show comments on. They've created characters that feel three-dimensional, even in their most extreme moments. Homelander is terrifying, but he's also pitiable. Butcher is heroic, but he's also destructive. The Deep is pathetic, but there's a kind of sad humanity to his patheticness. Nobody on this show is just one thing. They're all complicated, contradictory, human, and that's what gives the show its lasting power. Now, speaking of lasting power, let's talk about the Boys' legacy for a moment. Because regardless of how Season 5 ends, this show has already secured its place in television history. When The Boys premiered in 2019, superhero fatigue wasn't quite the cultural conversation it is now. The MCU was still riding high after Endgame, DC was struggling but still producing content. Superhero movies dominated the box office, and into that environment came a show that asked, what if superheroes were real? And what if they were terrible? What if they were products manufactured and marketed like any other brand? What if the thing we worship as heroism was actually just another form of power, wielded by the same kinds of flawed, selfish, damaged people who wield every other form of power? It was a question that resonated immediately. The Boys became one of Amazon's biggest hits, spawning spin-offs, animated specials, and a cultural footprint that extended well beyond its core audience. Characters like Homelander entered the mainstream conversation in ways that fictional characters rarely do. When people talk about power, about propaganda, about the dangers of unchecked authority, Homelander's name comes up alongside real historical examples. That's the mark of a character that transcends entertainment and becomes a kind of cultural shorthand. The show also proved something important about what audiences want. It proved that superhero content doesn't have to be family-friendly or formulaic, that audiences will embrace something dark, transgressive, politically charged, and genuinely difficult to watch, as long as it's done with conviction and craft. The Boys didn't apologize for being what it was. It leaned into the gore, the satire, the moral complexity, and the audience responded. and it created a universe that will outlast the main show. Vought Rising, the 1950s prequel, will explore how Vought International became the monster it is. Gen V showed us the next generation of supes, the ones who might have to build something better from the wreckage. The Boys presents. Diabolical gave us animated stories that expanded the world in unexpected directions. This isn't just a show, it's a franchise, and Season 5 is both an ending and a beginning. I think years from now, when people talk about the golden age of streaming television, The Boys will be part of that conversation. Alongside shows like Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones, and Succession, it'll be remembered as a show that took risks, that said uncomfortable things, that made people think while also making them laugh and squirm and gasp. That's a rare combination, and the fact that it managed to maintain that quality across 5 seasons is remarkable. But tonight, we're not thinking about legacies or cultural impact. Tonight, we're just here together, thinking about a show we love and wondering how it's going to end. And honestly, that's enough. The wondering is part of the fun. The theories, the speculation, the heated debates with friends about whether Butcher is redeemable or whether Ryan will turn evil. That communal experience of anticipation is one of the best things about being a fan of anything. So here's what I think will happen, just to put my cards on the table before we call it a night. I think Homelander dies. I think it happens in the Oval Office, like the trailer suggests and the comics foreshadow. I think it's either Ryan or Soldier Boy who delivers the killing blow, possibly both working together. And I think Homelander's last moments will be simultaneously terrifying and heartbreaking, because Anthony Starr won't let his final scene be anything less than extraordinary. I think Butcher dies too. I think he goes too far with the virus, threatens everyone, including the people he loves, and has to be stopped. But I don't think he goes full villain. I think in his last moments, he remembers Becca. He remembers his promise. And he chooses to die as the man she loved, not the monster he became. Carl Urban is going to make us weep. I think Huey and Annie survive. They find each other after the dust settles and they build a life, a quiet one, a good one. The kind of life that was never possible while Homelander was alive. I think MM survives and gets to be with his daughter. I think Frenchie and Kimiko get their happy ending, but it's going to come really, really close to not happening. And we're all going to be terrified for at least 3 episodes. I think A-Train redeems himself in a way that costs him everything, and his death, if it happens, will be treated with the dignity his redemption arc deserves. I think the Deep somehow survives, because the universe has a cruel sense of humour, and the Deep is its favourite joke. I think Ryan survives and is adopted by Huey and Annie, mirroring a popular fan theory that's been circulating since Season 4. He gets the family he always deserved, the parents who choose him out of love rather than obligation or manipulation. And I think the very last scene is something quiet, something gentle, something that reminds us that after all the blood and the noise and the horror, what remains is the people who chose each other, who fought for each other, who refused to give up even when giving up was the rational thing to do. That's what I hope for anyway. And in a few weeks we'll find out how close I was. In future videos, I'm going to cover more Boys content as Season 5 airs. Deep dives into individual episodes, character analysis for the major players, a comparison between the comic book ending and the show's ending, a complete timeline of the Vought universe from the 1940s to the present, and a proper retrospective on what the Boys meant for superhero storytelling and for television in general. There's so much more to talk about, and I'm looking forward to spending many more evenings with all of you, exploring these stories together. But for tonight, I think that's enough. We've covered Homelander's quest for immortality and the Oval Office foreshadowing. We've talked about Butcher's devastating transformation from hero to monster. We've discussed Soldier Boy's return and the supernatural reunion that's making fans lose their minds. We've gone deep on the soup-killing virus and its potential to end or save the world. We've agonized over which characters might die and which might survive. We've explored Ryan's impossible choice between his 2 fathers and the cycle of violence he might break or perpetuate. We've looked at the relationships that give the show its heart, from Huey and Annie to Frenchie and Kimiko. We've met the new faces joining the final season. We've theorized about the structure of the ending and what the comic book parallels suggest. And we've had some fun with the wilder theories, even the ones about milk. It's been a proper evening, hasn't it? I want to leave you with one last thought before you drift off. The Boys has always been a show about the gap between what things look like and what they actually are. Homelander looks like a hero but is a monster. Vought looks like a force for good but is a corporation that creates and profits from suffering. The Seven look like the world's greatest team but are a collection of damaged, dangerous individuals held together by fear and contracts. But the show also works the other way. Butcher looks like a monster, but underneath there's a man who loved his wife so much that her loss broke something fundamental inside him. Huey looks like a nobody, but turns out to be braver than any supe. Kimiko looks like a weapon, but is one of the most tender souls in the entire story. That duality, the idea that nothing is what it appears to be, is what makes The Boys more than just a superhero parody. It's a show about seeing clearly, about looking past the marketing and the propaganda and the carefully constructed images to find the truth underneath. And maybe that's the most important thing it has to teach us. Not just about fictional heroes, but about the real world too. Keep looking underneath. Keep questioning the story you're being told. Keep choosing to be kind, even when the world makes it hard. And on that note, my dear friends, I think it's time to say goodnight. Thank you for spending this time with me. Thank you for being here. Thank you for caring about stories and characters and the people who create them. It means more than you know. Stay warm, stay safe, and I'll see you next time. Sweet dreams. Before we properly wrap up though, I've got a few more scattered thoughts that have been bouncing around in my head all evening. And since we're here and comfortable, why not share them? I keep thinking about the title Vought Rising, the prequel series set in the 1950s. If Season 5 ends with the destruction of Vought as we know it, that prequel becomes even more interesting. It'll show us the seeds of everything. How the company started, how Compound V was first developed, how Soldier Boy was created, how the military-industrial complex merged with superhero culture to produce something genuinely monstrous. It's the origin story of the antagonist that isn't a person but a system. And understanding that systems' origins might give us a deeper appreciation for why the characters in The Boys fought so hard to destroy it. I also keep thinking about music. The Boys has always had an incredible soundtrack, using popular songs in unexpected and often ironic ways. Homelander murdering people while uplifting pop music plays. Butcher's dark moments scored to grunge and alternative rock. The juxtaposition between the music's tone and the action on screen is one of the show's signature techniques. I'm really curious what they'll choose for the final episode. What song will be playing when the credits roll for the last time? It needs to be perfect. It needs to capture both the devastation and the hope. If they go with something like Mad World or something understated and melancholic, I think that would be right. But knowing Kripke, it'll be something we don't expect, something that makes us laugh and cry at the same time. There's one more thing I want to say about Season 5 before I actually let you go to sleep. I know a lot of people are nervous about final seasons. We've been burned before. Game of Thrones, Dexter, Lost, shows that couldn't stick the landing after years of excellent storytelling. That fear is reasonable. But I genuinely believe The Boys is in a different position. Kripke planned for 5 seasons from the beginning. He wrote the ending years ago. The story has been building toward this specific conclusion with a level of intentionality that most shows can't match. This isn't a case of writers scrambling to tie up loose ends they created without a plan. This is a case of a showrunner executing a vision he's had since day one. That doesn't guarantee the ending will be perfect. Nothing is perfect. But it does mean that whatever we get on May 20th, 2026 will be the ending Kripke always intended. And given the quality of storytelling he's delivered across 4 seasons, 2 spin-offs, and an animated anthology, I'm willing to trust him with the conclusion. The Boys didn't just change how we think about superheroes on television, it changed what we expect from television altogether. It proved that a show can be outrageous and thoughtful at the same time, that it can make you cover your eyes in one scene and tear up in the next. That violence and tenderness aren't opposites but rather 2 sides of the same human coin. I'm going to miss it. I'm going to miss these characters. I'm going to miss the shock of each new episode, the conversations with friends afterwards, the theories and the debates and the collective experience of watching something truly special together. That's the part of fandom that no amount of cynicism can diminish. The simple joy of sharing a story with people who care about it as much as you do. So whatever happens in Season 5, whatever characters live and die, whatever theories prove right or wrong, I'm grateful for the ride, all 5 seasons of it. Every gory, hilarious, heartbreaking, thought-provoking minute. And now, for real this time, good night. Thank you for being here. I'll see you in the next one. Sweet dreams, my friends. Stay safe out there.